So I'll just blank this bit out. Right, WordPress Portsmouth Meetup. What's new in WordPress 6.2? I think this is the sort of color and banner they're going to have when you go and visit your WP admin about.php page, which tells you about what's new in WordPress 6.2. I'm currently using WordPress 6.2 release candidate 2, which is the last but one released candidate before the official release on the 28th of March. But I haven't actually had a look to see if it's got all the images there yet. If you want to watch a video of what's in WordPress 6.2 that involves people who are seriously involved in the development, Anne McCarthy and Rich Tabor, with an introduction and hosting by Nathan Wrigley, then you can click on that link there, make.wordpress.org test, help test WordPress 6.2. That's a load of rubbish. That's the how to find out about testing stuff. What I meant to say was, if you want to see the live demo, then you click on that WordPress TV link there and start watching at 4 minutes 18, and it will show you the same sort of stuff that I'm going to show you, but possibly a bit more professionally. You can also watch a YouTube video of comparing WordPress 5.9 with 6.2. So anybody who is using 5.9 and wants to upgrade to 6.2 can watch that. So that's also by Anne McCarthy. So here is, in a nutshell, on one piece of paper, the things that I'm going to try to talk about. And I've categorized them as being things to do with the site editor, which no longer got site in front of it, or maybe never did. Things to do with the post editor, and things to do with both the site editor and the post editor, and then other things. Now you can see there's an awful lot of this stuff is to do with Gutenberg, the site editor for block-based themes or full site editing themes, and to do with Gutenberg block editor itself. If you happen to be a non-Gutenberg person, then there might not be anything in WordPress 6.2 that you're really going to be interested in, apart from the download media link and some other things which are more to do for the developers rather than the end users. Now that note at the bottom says, if you're testing 6.2, make sure you know if you're also using Gutenberg 15 point something or higher. Turns out that should now say 15.2 or higher, because Gutenberg versions 14 point something through to 15.1 are going to be included in WordPress 6.2. I sometimes work with Gutenberg plugin, and sometimes I work without. But you might notice some differences. My demo will demonstrate some of those differences unintentionally. Right, so here we are in my local development environment and a machine called s.b, and I'm in a system called WP55, which indicates how long ago it was set up, WordPress 5.5, but it's actually WordPress 6.2. It's a multi-site site. And I have this page here, which is the home page, which contains the stuff that we're going to talk about. So you can see I've got a title heading area, featured image, and some contents. I'm going to go into edit the contents first of all, which is probably a silly thing to do because I should be using the site editor. If you're not used to the block editor, then this might all become a complete mystery. If you are used to it, it could still be a mystery. Right, here we are in the block editor. Now, if I just scroll down through this page, I should get to a point, and then I can then say what I'm going to tell you about it. So here is repeated the list of the different things you saw on this piece of paper here. And after that list should be some headings which I'm going to go through. So we have this thing which is entitled Site Editor, Templates and Templates Parts Preview, which means I'm in the wrong place. I should be in the Site Editor in order to be able to do this little demo bit. So let's go and do that. editing the site editor in a multi-site environment is interesting because sometimes you have edit site and it's editing a multi-site site as opposed to editing the site using the site editor. This link is the right one, so I'll click on edit site. Now what we should do is we should end up on the home page, or is it front page, and we'll see the content again. And the first thing we have in this is that it's changed now, and you have a preview of the templates and template parts. So on the left hand side is a little menu that you can choose things from, and the right hand side is the actual content, and until I click on it I'm not actually editing it. This is the 2023 theme, and this is there for the front page. I can go through and look at other different pages, so the search would be like this. Where was I? Home page is that one, that's what we saw, and if I want to edit it I just go and click on it, and lo and behold I'm now in the editor, and it's in full screen mode, or doesn't it make any difference? Yes, so if I can click on that I can go back to look at the templates, and I'm now back out of edit. Click on it again, I'm in edit, and I'm not in edit. Where am I? If I click on that, I'm in edit. I'm by the wrong thing. I'm in the home page now, sorry. Go back to the templates. Another way of viewing them is by the old method. This is how it was in WordPress 6.1, where you just had a list of the different templates and you can get a chance to click on them that way. Right, that's the one I want to edit, isn't it? My home page. All right, scroll down, we get to that. So site editor, templates and template parts preview. So that was what I was trying to demonstrate. And in this screen capture I got here, I've put a template part into it, and this template part is called WP62, and you can see that I could choose to edit it. So if I go back to template parts, should be able to find that WP62. This block is a little block I wrote, which enables me to display the version of WordPress I'm using and the version of Gutenberg. So if whenever I have a problem, I can quite easily refer to the version of WordPress that's running and the version of Gutenberg. So this is an improved navigation where you can visually see what it is you want to work on and pick the bits you want to work on, and then eventually you can decide, yes, I want to do something. Now, why am I getting confused about I should be choosing index? No, I shouldn't. Why am I getting confused, boys and girls? Home. Which one am I actually looking at right now? Why isn't it showing me on the left-hand side that this is the one I've actually highlighted? Page is the one I wanted to change. Good. Right, so I've failed to tell you anything about that really, I'm afraid, apart from the fact that there might be some things to think about. How do you know what you're actually looking at?
Is it not because, right, when you bring up that left-hand side,
yeah,
it's bringing up the generic template that you've got, and when you go into the middle here, like the templates and the pages are not the same thing.
No, yes, but I'm trying to edit the page template.
Right.
But it doesn't give a good indication it is what it is you're actually looking at. If I click on 404, yeah, so it goes to that. Right. But when you're just viewing it, it goes to the well, what I thought was the index one, but if I go and choose index, I end up editing something different.
Right,
I
so
think
that,
page one I should be editing, because when I go and edit the page, I get that. When I edit the site, I get that. So this is where I actually want to be. No, it's not.
so see if you click on a page on the templates.
That's back. I'm back to where I should be now.
Right, so see when you click on any of those, there's that little pencil tool. So I wonder if you have to click on the pencil tool. So if you click onto that, any of them,
yeah, like I did with 404, that one works.
right, and then see if there's a little pencil tool.
Well, that's to actually go into the editor itself.
Yeah, so that's different to what you're trying to achieve then.
And what I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to get back to that thing.
Right.
But it's not any one of those on that list, because it is already the right home page, but it's not listed there. Apart from the fact there's home. When I click on home, it's a different home.
It looks like you can write another ticket or something about this navigation things.
We've got God knows how many minutes of recording time of me getting confused about what I'm actually choosing here. This is what I wanted to do, because this template here is quite simple. It has a header, as we can see, and inside the header is a row which contains a navigation, site title and navigation. And then inside the main body, it has another group which contains a featured image, title and post content. So there's the featured image.
Is it possibly because, Herb, the page that's called page and the page template have the exact same name?
No, I don't think my page is called page, but we'll find out. And then we have the post content of the home page. I think I'm editing the home template, but it does say here page, which is the page template. So that sort of makes sense as well. Anyway, what am I supposed to do? So we've pissed about with that, sorry, language. And now we've got this thing called distraction-free mode, which is, of course, something which is not part of the site editor. It's part of the block editor. So back to the block editor, and you go and choose these different modes. You have distraction-free mode, which is different from full screen. Full screen is where you toggle the menu on the left-hand side. Spotlight and top toolbar are other different ways of toggling it. And distraction-free is where you turn everything off, and there you are, writing on what looks like a plain piece of paper. And so you can get to this and you can start typing away. And then you can probably do a list or something. So if you are good at doing this distraction-free stuff and you know your keyboard controls, you can probably do, no, I don't want that. You can probably happily insert the right sort of blocks. Oh yeah, I can just go for a heading. There you go, and I don't need to look at any of the settings. So it's just a nice clear thing. How do you get rid of distraction-free mode? Good question. You hover up to the top and change it back off. Now, if you're lucky and you aren't running Windows, you might be able to use a short key to do that. But they've discovered that Control plus Shift plus backslash doesn't seem to work on a Windows machine. And I tried to do it. If you look down, you can see me try on the keyboard. I've just pressed Control Shift and backslash and nothing's happening whatsoever. But there you go, there's distraction-free mode for you. Right, block setting.
Sorry to interrupt you, like that kind of problem you're describing could happen if you've got hotkeys that are overloaded. So for example, it's the kind of thing that happens with NVIDIA, that some of the hotkeys for NVIDIA overlay conflicts with other bits of software. It could simply be whatever your setup is on your own computer. If you've got two hotkeys that are overloaded.
Great, we'll save that one and we'll go and get back to them about it, because I do have NVIDIA on my but what is it supposed to do then? That control?
It might not be NVIDIA. I get it with Photoshop. Some of the shortcuts get eaten up by Photoshop.
Yeah. But the other thing is that on my / key, it's the lowercase part of a key, which is vertical bar when you press shift. So maybe it becomes a shift vertical bar rather than shift /. Or does the control stop that? I don't know. There's the issue number. You can go and have a look. If I do that, Control Shift Alt F, as it says there, which is a bit of a challenge, and Control Shift Alt F, that's toggling on the full screen and toggling it off, but the Control Shift / doesn't work.
It's interesting, because on the Mac it's Shift Command and /, and that in Safari is a display or tabs by default, so it's getting overwritten by the operating system anyway.
Oh, is it? Of mine. Well, what am I trying to do? Right, block settings, panel interface settings and styles. Well, I'm going to cover another item first. Up here, this settings icon has now changed shape, so it's no longer the coggy thing. It's more like showing me the fact there's a sidebar turns up, and lo and behold, there's a sidebar. And if you go into the block interface and you choose that, you can see that we just get to see some settings, which doesn't show two different things. But if I happen to choose an image, we can now see this panel has been split into settings and styles. So the settings are for example, for an image, are the alt text and image size, and the styles is where you can decide to have a rounded one or change the borders, all that sort of stuff. So they're now in two different tabs. And you'll notice when you get down to the bottom here, they've got a special message to say you might be looking in the wrong place, because they moved to the Styles tab, and there's the Styles tab there. The navigation menu actually has more than two tabs, because it has another bit in there. Right, another thing that you can see in the site editor and in the block editor is you can see when visual identification of template parts and reusable blocks. So I'll go back to the site editor, and here we can see here's a template part called header, and it's now shown in purple. So you can clearly see that, and somewhere else we should be able to see a reusable block called Have I? And that's also shown in purple. Now you could ask, how do we change the color from purple to something else? And the answer is, I don't know. Where are we? Style book and improved styles preview. Now the style book is something which is for the site editor only. And when you go to styles, this is where you can choose the different styles, and here I am able to pick the style overall for the theme. So 2023 provides, was that 9, 10, 11 different things? I'll stick with the default one. There's a thing with the little I type stuff, which is the style book. So when you go and look at choose a theme on WordPress.org, it shows you what it might look like. And here, this is giving us the example of it. So you don't have to go and pick each individual one. You can go straight into the style book, and you can see your headings and some other different blocks being styled, and you can go in and you can choose them. So let's choose the pull quote, and when you click on the pull quote, it gives you the preview, and then we can go and change the typography. So let's make the font Sans Serif Pro, and there I am now changing the style quite nicely visually, and I can see it in comparison with the other different styles. If I go and choose save, it will save these styles and custom styles. And that should now be available to anywhere I use that pull quote block. It will be styled like that. And you can see there are multiple different tabs, the different things you can style. So you can style buttons, and you can also style custom blocks which your plugins deliver. And you'll notice that sometimes those custom blocks don't work. And these are my custom blocks, and they don't work because I don't know why, because I haven't found out yet. I haven't investigated it. Right, back to where were we? Come out of styles, style book, come out of styles. There's my screen capture of that. Right, next thing is Openverse integration. Openverse has a catalog of millions of images. And if you want to insert an image from Openverse, you simply go to the block inserter, and this works both in the site editor and in the block editor. And you go to media and you choose Openverse, and then we search for different things such as block. And here's the list of blocks that I screen captured, and you pick one of them. And does it automatically insert it? That one, a Blue Peter one. Double click on it, maybe. And it's now uploaded and inserted the image. So it's now copied that image. Where's it inserted it? At the end, apparently. So if you like picking up images from elsewhere, this is a nice, easy way of doing it. And because it's Openverse, then all you have to worry about is not much to do with, what's it called, crediting people. It does it for you, I think. You'll probably find that that block has got the right HTML to say this block, this comes from somebody else. Right, so there is the one I did, and it says here, building blocks game CC0. And what does CC0 mean?
Creative Commons 0 means you don't have to attribute the image.
Right, but it's nice, but it does it if you let it by default do that.
Yeah, so you can do, but you don't have to.
Yeah, so if I go to the settings here, we should see, oh no, it's just there in the caption, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Now the improved navigation block, this was going to appear in the left-hand side as well, but there were problems with it because it didn't quite cater for the fact that people have more than one navigation block. You can see I've got two navigation blocks here. I've got the menu up here, and I've got a secondary menu here. So they've taken it out for the time being, and now the navigation block is improved in a different way, in that it's improved on the right hand side rather than left hand side. So if I was to go to this navigation block, we can see the navigation appearing on the right hand side here. I can either work with it here and insert another thing. So I'm inserting a social icon in the LinkedIn, or I can work with it over here. And you can see there's the three different tabs. So this is enabling us to build up menus. And if you happen to have different menus, you can change the menu by choosing the menus from the drop down more thing. And you can also import menus from your other menus you may have when you've switched from one theme to another. So I can import that one. It's not easy to name these menus, unfortunately, but it's coming. And they've also improved the pattern inserter. And the pattern inserter can be used both in the side editor and the post editor. So if we go to patterns, we can now choose featured patterns. And if you don't like looking at it when it's a bit small like that, perhaps you can just expand it and go into explore all patterns, and you can see them slightly larger. Can I zoom this up with using Control plus and minus? Yeah, sort of, so I can see it. And you can pick from patterns and insert a pattern into your thing, and there you go. I don't know exactly how that's improved, other than the fact it's structured. Everyone know what a pattern is? Right, now, copy block styles. Here I've styled a heading as small font with a green text and a background. And let's go and change this to a darker green text and a... No, all right, that's better. Orange, isn't it? Orange text. And now I can go and choose copy styles. And I can then now paste those styles into another block. I'm going to paste these into this paragraph block. And lo and behold, you can change the style. Now that was a very simple change, but if I had more complicated changes, you can do that, and you can copy the style differences to other places. So if I go and apply it to this one here and paste the styles, I've restyled that heading as well. So you can restyle a heading and then copy it all the way across. It is also possible to make changes to styles, and if you're in the site editor, to save those styles globally. So I've changed that heading there, and if I do apply globally, shall I risk it? All my headings have now been globally changed, but I appear to have lost a bit of padding. See if I can undo it. Now, if I don't save it, that's probably not going to get saved. If I do a refresh.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I was expecting that to just apply to all H2s. I'm quite surprised that it applies to all headings in general.
Interesting, yes. I only had H2s, so did I have any H3s in there to apply them to? Should we try that again?
It would be interesting if you don't mind to see if it's global as in all headings or a heading of a particular
All right, so
variant.
let's go back down to where it was. So that was push block styles to global settings. That was what I was doing, wasn't it? So if I duplicate that block, change it to a heading level 3, apply the styles by pasting, using the wrong context menu, paste styles into there, and then push the styles to global, it shouldn't change that H3. Is that what we reckon? And it changed all heading levels.
Right, so for globally in that context, as in, right, that's interesting. I'm noticing here that what you've demonstrated, what you're struggling with, there's a wee issue here around like specificity. That's tripping it up.
That might be a known problem. But it didn't take long to find it, did it? If we'd have gone to the Wonder if we could have done that in this. Yep, there you go. Apply to all of them. Ah, where's the there's no undo on this page now. Because
that's because the thing, they're all the same anyway. H2, H3s use the same styling anyway. Or
Interesting. Unfortunately, it's a bit too late to get it fixed for 6.2, because now that they're in released candidates, all they're doing is really major problems. And this might not be considered to be a major problem. Right, sticky block position. You may already noticed that this block here is a sticky block in the heading block. And also you can see that this one here called sticky block position is a sticky block. So you can have more than one sticky block, and as you scroll up, so they sit over the top of each other. But because this happens to be the same width, you can't see it, and because it happens to be deeper, you can't see it. The sticky block is something which you do by assigning the stickiness to a group. So first of all, you've got to put the blocks into a group. Here we have the group, and we have this thing called position, and I can choose to make it sticky. And which group am I on now? I'm actually within post content, and then I'm in this sticky block here. So it should be this group, which is the sticky one. And therefore it should say position sticky, which it does. So if I unsticky it, lo and behold, it's no longer sticky. It is possible to put sticky blocks inside posts, which you then display in a query posts, and those sticky blocks, then when you scroll up, go up to the top and don't go any further, which is a feature, I think. Not in, and don't know if anyone actually thought about it, apart from idiots like me who do some strange testing. Right, this is a major thing. We no longer got beta to the right hand side of site editor. So whereas in WordPress 6.1, if you went to appearance editor, you would have beta written in red. It no longer has it. It is just the editor. So when I say site editor, I'm assuming there's this hidden word site in front of it, as opposed to editor, which is any one of the other different things you could use to edit some sort of content. But no, I think the block editor is now called the post editor to differentiate from the site editor. Right, custom site-wide and block CSS. So I need to go back into the site editor for that. It's now possible to write your own CSS in the same way that you used to use the customizer to write CSS for your theme as site-wide CSS, which you can apply across the board. By putting it in there. So we can do something very silly like body font size 30. And it adjusted something somewhere, didn't it? Or that's the across the board stuff. Or we can do it for individual blocks. Now, I don't actually know how you're supposed to target these individual blocks, but there are some developer notes about how to do this. You should only use this when you don't have the capability of using things like styles for blocks. So I won't go any further with that. Who here has a theme which uses classic widgets in a standard PHP theme? Who wants to migrate it into a block-based theme and wants to import their widgets into their templates? It is possible to do it. I did it using another environment, and I'm not going to repeat it here because it was a bit of a challenge, but it did actually sort of work. Download media link. I don't know if you've ever wanted to download an image from your website. You go to the media library, find the image, and then you think, and how am I supposed to download that? So what you might have done was to view it. That didn't work because the theme doesn't display it. Very good. Or you can edit it. And then copy the URL to clipboard and view the URL and all that stuff, and then paste it and then download it from there. Or now you can just go to the download file link, which will enable you to download the file directly to wherever you want to download it to. You will notice that it works for images and other types of file, but it doesn't work if you happen to filter the unattached images. And that's because it was an oversight. And that's going to be fixed in 6.2.1, one hopes.
When you include an Openverse image, does it automatically download to your WordPress?
Yes, yeah, that image we were looking at there was from Openverse. So it's not referring to it on the Openverse site itself. It actually gives you a copy of it.
Okay, that's good.
Here's another Openverse image that I downloaded. Something to do with the moon. Settings icon redesign, we've done that bit. Add shadow presets and UI tools in global styles. So you can see here I've got a button which has got shadow presets, and it's the same shadow for both the normal button and the outline button. If I want to go in and to change it, it's not here, it's in, where am I? I'm in the block editor. I need to be in the site editor. If I go into widgets, or is it design, or is it theme? There's a button. I've got style variations there, and what was it? Shadow. I'll go to shadow, choose the shadow, and I can choose between the natural, deep, sharp, come on, outlined, or now the theme will provide the in a theme.json file will provide the different types of shadows you can do. This is 2023 and these are the default shadows. So that will apply to both the normal button and also to the outline version. It's a bit difficult to see in this bit here because of the scroll bar, isn't it? So that's basically it. I got some of the information I got by reading WP Beginner. If we go to wppompe.org.uk, and visit this meetup, here you'll see my slides, and here's some links. This is the video of the demo. Here's the links to the different notices about different versions of WordPress 6.2 availability, and here's a link if you want to look at anything to do with 6.2, you can find that. So you'll be able to find the field notes, field usage notes. I looked at WP Beginner and hostinger.com to get the list that I started with. And then I realized that if you actually go to wordpress.org, you can get all of them, and they've just copied it from there. Right, why don't we have a look at this about WordPress whilst we're at it. If you want, so here we go, we've got pictures now. So if you go to your About WordPress, when you install WordPress 6.2, it'll have nice images to tell you what it's all about. Now, so I don't know if this is going to be updated, if it needs to be updated for the minor changes they made recently. It probably not, it looks okay to me. And then we can learn more about WordPress by going to learn.wordpress.org, or we can look at these release notes and the field guide. So developers, go and click on those things here. That hasn't been written yet, therefore the link doesn't work. How long shall I spend whilst editing the video thinking about raising or searching for issues of the problems we encountered? Not long?
I'd be interested to retry that heading one, because it looks, if you go into the style editing, as if H1, H2, H3 should have independent styles.
Mm-hmm.
But that set globally seemed to apply it to the all, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think,
sorry, like if you were going to raise an issue with that, like from a software development point of view, they've got an issue with the scope in there, eh? Like, does it actually mean global as in everything, or
well,
do they want
yes,
to limit the scope because they need to decide that, because it's not really, it's a bit confusing.
I think a number of these different things are, again, you know, sort of experiments that need to be brought out into the real world. Everybody look at it and say, yeah, that wasn't quite what we wanted. But if you're trying the global styles, how are they stored in the global styles theme.json? Yes, each individual block does have its own styles, and headings are special ones as well. Maybe you apply that. The other theory is you apply that to the heading, and then you go and adjust each individual heading again once you've done that global style stuff.
Like, we've also got to consider here that it's working with CSS, and if you understand CSS, then you understand why it's applying it the way it's applying it.
Yeah.
I also think it depends what you want. So imagine you decided that you wanted your headings to no longer be purple, but you wanted them to be blue across the site. Then applying it globally, if all your H2, H3 and H4 were purple beforehand, and now you want them all to be blue, it sort of makes sense. But almost if you have made those, you know, if H3 is yellow, you don't want it overwriting that. And whilst it might mean you have to apply globally 5 different times for the 5 different headings, that sort of makes more sense, but maybe it depends what level you're at.
I mean, that's a really good point, Drew, that the thing that they're doing right is they're creating a rod for their own back, because the way that you're doing it visually is quite intuitive, but the visual intuition is not the same as the coding intuition in the background.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've had that one, discussed it quite a lot and thought, okay, well, it's fine if you happen to be doing it for paragraphs and lists and so on, but when we get to something which is a bit more difficult. Because
I would imagine if you were clicking that apply globally in the context of applying it globally to like the HTML view or the coding view, it would make perfect sense what it's doing. But when you're looking at the visual format, it's not quite as clear.
I need to step out for a moment. Talk amongst yourselves, boys, girls.
That's been really quite informative. Like the one that stood out to me was the bringing in images, because if you're building a brand new website, that's really quite useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been quite useful that they've now started to put some of the Creative Commons access in there, because although you could go and open up a separate site and pexels.com is quite a good one to find things. Being able to do it all there in the editor is ideal, really, isn't it? Because you're all there, you're writing your content, you don't have to keep jumping in and out of the site.
Yeah, I would expect the next thing that's going to happen, Drew, right, with all this kind of advent of AI art, you'll have some clever person that creates like a stable diffusion plugin that it just generates images for you on the fly and brings them in without even using any of those kind of sites that's got like the stock art.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could basically say, give me an image for this post, and it will read your paragraphs and your heading, and it'll come up with something.
Yeah, it's coming. It's not far away.
I quite like that sticky block as well. I thought that was quite useful. If you need to put information on about what's going on the site, you know, if you're updating it, what have you, having something that's always there at the top of the page is going to be quite useful.
In the video, they said they had intended that to apply to lots of block types, but they ran into some complications, which is why it's only limited to groups at the moment.
Okay.
Right, cool.
Top level groups. And one of the things about that is if you had a header template, you might think, I'll just make the header template sticky. And I was trying to do that, but you need to wrap it in a group in order to be able to make it sticky.
Right.
But they know about that. What's the time? 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
More questions? Right. Are there questions in the chat? Arnold, where do you edit the template menu in dashboard? Do you know what that question means, anybody?
Let me see.
I think he did mention later on he saw it's in appearance and site editor,
Right.
so I think he was just trying to see where you got to that template menu.
Right, because I was already there.
Yeah, when you're watching somebody else do it and you can't see exactly the process, it's hard to know sometimes how you get from one page to the next.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And if you're not careful, you're clicking around yourself trying to find it, you get even more lost, don't you?
That's right.
Aye.
So just a general question for all of you. Do you find like the navigation around this new block editor intuitive, or do you find it a bit confusing?
I find it really confusing. I've come back. I used to do WordPress a couple of years ago.
Okay.
When Gutenberg was kind of like very alpha, we just turned it off straight away. So I've just been learning it. It's very complicated. It's not very intuitive at all.
That, like, because I was concerned that it was just me, but I was sticking to like the 2021 theme for a long time because I'm like, I don't like this editor, but like Herb, you've certainly done it justice tonight. That it's you can see even if they're bringing it out of beta, it still feels like a work in progress. Eh?
Well, yeah, there are people who write extension plugins with loads and loads of different blocks, and they make them complicated and very advanced and so on and so forth. And then there's the basic stuff. Mm-hmm. The way I've been using the block editor over time, it changes. So now you might use the list view far more than you did originally in order to see the structure of your content, with the ability to expand and contract and all that sort of stuff. And then you might go and find you need to use some of these menu items on this list view or here differently from how you might have done it before. For example, if you happen to be in a list and you got two list items, and then you used to just go into the list and say, I'm going to insert another block afterwards. What you end up doing is, when you can't do it from a list item, you need to go to the high level one. And therefore you actually need to go over here to insert a block after it. Right. That's fairly easy. But if you happen to have multiple columns, I'm going to do multiple columns. Excuse me. Why can't I see the paragraph blocks if we haven't typed anything in yet? No. All right, if I want to convert that to columns and then make it 2 columns. Oh, rubbish. Make this 2 or 3 columns. Now I've started putting lots of content in there. If I wanted to now insert a new block after that, I'll end up inserting it after this column that I'm in, not after the whole block. So you've got to get back up to the columns thing to insert the new block after it. And so the way I've used it has changed over time because of the adding in some complexities and so on and so forth.
It's really interesting what you're describing, because that would benefit from like WordPress in the background doing kind of like data collection, because there's a lot of things that you're demonstrating that there's bound to be like patterns of behavior that are happening over and over again. And if they understand what those repeated behaviors are, they could almost preempt them and make it more intuitive to navigate this interface.
Right. How are they going to gather it though?
That's the point. It's not easy, because if you're hosting it independently and it's not part of WordPress.com, they can't do
it. Right.
I guess they use the same editor though in WordPress.com, so they might be able to collect. I don't want to mistake it that way.
One of the things I noticed on one of the videos I was watching is that they were using the Gutenberg plugin with this latest version with 6.2. Why would you do that? And
well, let's go and do that, shall we? Because Phil Bunce wanted to know about it. You are Phil Bunce, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So I'll go and activate Gutenberg. Edits. I don't want to edit. So I'm in dashboard, right? Plugins. Where's plugins? This one here.
Up a bit. Oh, you got loads.
Well, I've got 2 different plugins. That's plugins as opposed to plugins.
Well, at least you've got different symbols for them anyway.
No.
I know.
So Gutenberg, recently active. I've got Gutenberg 15.3.1, which is the latest from WordPress.org. I don't work with the development version anymore, can't build it anymore. Lost that capability some time ago. Now, there will be things which are slightly different. So we go to, if I chose this edit site thing, I'll be editing the network admin site. So I should have chosen editor, edit. But let's just go and edit page. And we will see things which are slightly different. Has it loaded it yet? There we go. That's interesting. I had some global styling on this featured image, didn't I? Made it look a bit weird with varying shaped rounded corners and different color border and so on, and that seems to have disappeared. Now that might have been since I switched the theme.json style, whatever it's called, of choosing the variation of the theme. Is it called variations? Not the right word. What's different in Gutenberg is that Gutenberg actually has a table of contents block. This is available in Gutenberg since 14.3, but this is not yet in WordPress.org. So there will be some things in Gutenberg that you don't yet have in WordPress. So it's sort of bleeding edge and not yet in WordPress. And that's one of them.
So things go into the plugin first,
Yeah,
and then eventually migrate into the release core.
yes. So we could now go back into the site editor, go and do those things we did, and see if it's now different in Gutenberg than it was in the site editor, because this is now 15.1, 15.2, 15.3. So it's two versions on, and tomorrow there'll be another version of Gutenberg 15.4.
That's really useful.
So unless you wanted to use something that was only available in the Gutenberg plugin, you probably wouldn't bother to install it. Is that true?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So you just let WordPress update itself. This is one of the blocks which is I know is different and hasn't made it into WordPress, and there are reasons for that. And I was asking those questions just before I came onto the call this evening.
The
Yeah.
TAC Global's asking where you get the Openverse content from. Am I right? It's not available until 6.2, but can you just show where it appears?
What? So this stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you get to Openverse as a real website?
So I think it's basically you add a block, don't you? And then you choose media, and then you choose Openverse.
Yes, I clicked on the inserter. So I went to the inserter, chose media. If I chose images, this probably wasn't there. So you can choose your image directly rather than going into insert the block and then doing it. So these are the images which are attached to my website. And these two are now attached because I downloaded from Openverse. But there are multiple different places you can get them from. There will be, and Openverse is just one of them. So having now selected Openverse, it goes away and talks directly to the Openverse API, and then you go and type in what you want.
So I use the images, but I have never seen the Openverse before. So the Openverse is only unique to
this is a new part in 6.2.
Ah, okay. And then what are the main differences between Openverse and images?
The fact that they've been made available globally as part of the Creative Commons license, and that they're free to use.
I see.
As opposed to searching for Getty images and finding that you've downloaded an image which is copyrighted. You've got to pay loads of money for using it.
I see. So the Openverse has already with a 6.2, it will have the quite a lot content.
Oh yes.
Itself. So without paying a lot of money, that we can access and then utilize them.
Yeah, they might not be images you want to use. I've just typed in pumpkin.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the clarification. It's clear. So we have to wait until 6.2.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's Gutenberg 15 point something, but you're not waiting long, about 2 weeks.
28, isn't it?
Right, well, let's go back to PowerPoint and go through the different things that I was going to show you. Oh, this was block styles. So when I did my featured image, I set these different color borders and different color radiuses, and I seem to have now lost those. I don't know why. Sticky block we did. Shadows. Classic widgets import. All right, here's the screen captures of me doing it. So, and I went into the site editor, added a new template part. Didn't need to go through this step process. Advanced, whatever that was. All right, go to the advanced area, choose import widget area, select the widget area, import it, and that would import a widget that you had before into a template part, which you can then save and use to create your own widget areas in the site editing environment. Things went wrong. Right, so the questions I asked were, when do you usually update WordPress? And 11 people said they have it done automatically. 7 people said after testing, and some of these answers here are to do with the different levels of what sort of testing they did. 5 said they will wait until the first minor release, and 3 said it happens eventually.
I might change my answer now that you've demonstrated this tonight. Because I did say automatically, but after seeing the wee bugs, I'm like, not so sure anymore.
But if you're not using the site editor and you're not really going to be affected by them at all, are you? If you're using a classic theme, you might never go into it. You might never go into use global styles.
See, I'm going to be a real nerd and say that they're running a real danger of making this so complicated that you'd just be as well learning vanilla CSS as opposed to using this editor, because it's just, if you actually just learn the CSS, it'd be far easier than doing that.
This is why these sort of things have before never really taken on, because they're so complicated. Because you change every little thing, you may as well learn CSS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they've made it even just as hard to write the CSS though. It's very difficult now with a Gutenberg page to say, well, where did that CSS actually come from? Because half the CSS is being generated for the block.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
They run a real risk of driving people away from WordPress. They might just go and learn React or go and learn Bootstrap and don't bother with WordPress.
Yeah, but what percentage of people are not ever going to try to write CSS or learn or writing JavaScript? And does it work for those people, or does it work for the theme developer and the end user just doesn't actually bother to use many of those options?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I sometimes change the background color of my paragraphs, but I don't do much more.
You're right. I mean, they've got to strike a balance. The whole point is that they need to focus on the fact it's a CMS that's meant to be easy to assimilate and easy to use, easy to learn, easy to get to go with. And this tonight, I mean, thank you very much for showing us. But I mean, I'm looking at this going, not so sure you're keeping it simple anymore.
But is that because you're not using the block editor that much at the moment? So for some people that are already using the block editor,
It's purely through coming from like a software development background and like learning all the coding way of doing things first, looking at this going, I can do this in 2 seconds, writing it in code, and it's going to take me much longer doing it that way. If I was going to adopt the site editor, it would have to be faster for me than writing it in code.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for most developers, I think you will still write CSS and you'll probably create the themes, but for stock WordPress that somebody can download from scratch and maybe not need to get a developer involved, that's where something like the site editor gives them so much flexibility. It'll just take them a lot longer, you know, but
what I do really admire is this thing about like color coding and that, because obviously when you're writing code, unless you're using a nice sort of text editor, you're not going to get that kind of facility. But to be able to look at like down a sidebar and you can see your tree, oh, there's my red ones and that's that, and there's my green ones and that's that. That is brilliant. That's a nice introduction.
Yeah.
It was only using purple so far, but they might decide to do it for, I don't know, I've never used locked blocks, for example, and maybe they'll use something to code it that way.
Is anyone else familiar with Divi themes editor, which is a similar sort of thing to Gutenberg? It's a premium plugin. It's a bit easier, a bit more intuitive than Gutenberg, but it's quite heavy. But I don't know, it's just something worth looking at.
What's that?
Called Divi.
All right. Oh, yes.
It's a premium plugin. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for licensing or anything. But we used to use that sites.
Well, the other plugin that is an alternative to Gutenberg is Elementor, which is one of the top 10 plugins available. But of course, that one is the free version provides so much, and then you have to go for the premium version if you want to do a little bit more. So there's many different ways of doing it. And Gutenberg is the preferred way for Mullen-Morgan Automatic and WordPress.com.
I belong to a small local group, and they mainly use WordPress, but every single person there except me is allergic to CSS. So so they absolutely won't consider it. So I've been trying to encourage them to sort of creep in and do little bits with CSS, but it's like pulling teeth.
But like the point there is, Phil, to get anybody to pick up CSS, you've got to go for the Trinity, right? So you've got to start with HTML, then go to CSS, then go to JavaScript. If you try to introduce people to CSS through WordPress, not a good idea.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's the problem. But and of course, telling them they have to learn 3 different things to get started or whatever.
yeah, true.
Not good.
Right, moving on. So that was page 1 of 2. The reason there's another page is because I had different answers. I use a hosting company called SiteGround, and I see this site will not receive automatic updates for new versions of WordPress because the SiteGround disables that. Now, the way you disable automatic updates is you define a constant called WP Auto Update Core, and you set it to false, and therefore it doesn't done. Now, if you look in through your WP config file, you won't find that line there, but you will find a number of different includes to SiteGround, which are for those things there below in green and blue and red. And in there somewhere, they set auto update core to false, so they don't have auto updates applied. But I think they might actually then go and apply the updates themselves at some point in time. Another thing that might happen is you happen to have your site has version control of Git, and if WordPress determines that you've got Git in there somewhere, then it will actually say, I'm not going to update it because I'm going to override your Git repository. And so I had that in my local development environment. And then if you actually have automatic updates available, then that bottom left box is what you'll see, that it can be kept up to date, or you can just change it and you can click on some buttons to do it. So there you go. Right, so coming to the end, we'd like to thank our sponsors for 2023, GoDaddy, Bluehost, Weglot, Automatic and WooCommerce. Here we are now, 488 Meetup members today, of one of the 785 groups in the world in 115 countries with over 500,000 members of WordPress something or other. We're catching up slowly with Brighton, Bournemouth, but not Bristol. But we actually have meetups, whereas most of those haven't been doing much in the last few years. Here's the latest statistics of how many people have joined our meetup and a total so far, and how many have attended our meetings in the last few years. And here we are with WordPress 6.2. So yesterday was WordPress 6.2 release candidate 2. Next Wednesday is release candidate 3, and then the week later we have the dry run to prepare for the final release of WordPress 6.2 on the 28th of March. Also on the 28th of March, if you fancy it, you can go to Brighton, where the Brighton WordPress meetup is going to have some sort of a social. So a physical, an in-person meetup there, going to talk to those people who are having another go at restarting their WordPress meetups. I used to attend quite often, and it was quite good. Looking further ahead, 27th of May is when WordPress turns 20. And you can go and visit wp20.wordpress.net to find out about what's going on there. If you want to go to a WordCamp, you can go to Athens for WordCamp Europe in June, or wait until September, and it hasn't quite been confirmed yet, but the 22nd to 24th of September, Dan Maybe and others are attempting to organise WordCamp London, and I'm sure ABBA will be very much involved in that. They're having a bit of fun trying to find a venue to use. I think the universities might have gone back, which means it might be a bit difficult to use a university. If you want to know any more about different WordCamps going on, click on those links down there. And if you want to know more about WordPress 6.2, click on that link. Now, the words I was trying to find was style variations. 2023 has 11 different variations, so you can suddenly change your colors and so on and so forth. And there are now 252 themes, which between them deliver 622 different style variations. That's a full site editing. Compare that though with 10,000 other themes you can download from WordPress.org. That's what we did last year. This year, we've just done what's new in WordPress 6.2. Next month, I hope we might have an introduction to learn.wordpress.org. And then in May, we can get an in-person meeting on the 24th of May, go down to Gun Wharf in Portsmouth. A bit of a long way for you to go, Chris.
Yeah.
But we could have something. We'll have a 20th anniversary quiz.
That's cool.
Which will be, some questions will be easy and some questions will be hard. So,
well, I've got to commend you here tonight. You've made that something worth considering.
Olga, you can come over as well.
I'm lousy with quizzes. It's not my thing, but I can come and join.
No, yeah, I'll give you. Here's some of the questions. I've written them already. 20th anniversary quiz. So if you can find out what happened on the 27th of May, or what happened 20 years ago, then or things to do with the number 20, you've got a pretty good chance of getting some answers right.
27th of May, it's my city's birthday. So
well, tell her that, send her a card and say, see you, I'm off to a quiz.
Cool.
And then looking ahead into June and July, we might do WordPress multi-site, and in July might even cover advanced custom fields, also known as ACF. But that's just some thoughts. I'm going off on holiday and I won't be back until the 11th of April. So let's see whether or not we can get something to do with learn.wordpress.org. ABBA's very pro it, and there was a survey sent out a few months ago, and I filled it in, and I thought, I haven't actually been at learned at WordPress.org for some time. I don't know what I'm missing out on, because you can go and do courses on Gutenberg in all sorts of different ways of application development and creating your own theme and just basically how to use it. And there's lots of meetings that you can attend on a weekly basis when someone gives you a workshop on things.
That's really good information, because usually I'd be looking at like LinkedIn Learning or something like that to pick up the latest functions in WordPress. So cool.
Things.
No, they know.
WordPress is best kept secret, I suppose, isn't it? And same as WordPress TV. You know, how often you look at WordPress TV, you know that there was a WordCamp, but do you go and find that, or do you go and search on YouTube first? Right. Bits of trivia. WordPress 6.1 been downloaded 86 million times. That's going to change in a couple of weeks' time. Gutenberg latest version is 15.3.1. 60,000 plugins, 10,580 themes, of which 251 or 2 are full site editing ones. And the total number of plugin downloads from WordPress.org since time began was 8.25 billion downloads of plugin versions. 525 million of them being WordPress SEO. That's it. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Red IT and 34SP. We'd love to have some